Well, the Detroit Lions just might have saved their season last week by pulling out an ugly win over the Seattle Seahawks. If Detroit had lost that game, they would have fallen to 2-5. And in the NFC North, I think it would have been about done for them. But they did come out with a win, so they're still breathing at 3-4. They're going on the road this week to take on one of the worst teams in the National Football League. I'm talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Detroit is currently installed as a 3.5-point favorite in this game on BETDAQ. 44 is the total. And the reason I said Jacksonville is one of the worst teams in the league instead of outright saying they are the worst team in the league, which we've been saying for the last 2 weeks, is because Jacksonville was competitive on the road last week in Green Bay, while a team like the Kansas City Chiefs was blown out at home by Oakland. So sitting here right now in Week 9, you might list Kansas City as the very worst team in the league, but not far behind is Jacksonville. This team is absolutely awful. The worst offense in the league, dead last in the league in total offense, yards per game, points scored, passing offense. There is no worse offense in the NFL, and they're not much better on defense, which is a surprise. Jacksonville Jaguars were pretty good on defense last year, finishing the year 6th in the league in total defense, but right now they're 27th in points allowed. When you're last in the league in points scored and 27th in points allowed, you're 1-6. But you know what? As ugly as those stats sound, and as ugly as the reality of a 1-6 record is, the Jags are actually 4-3 against the number. A surprise. I think that would surprise a lot of people because the Jags have been blown out a few times this year. So most people would think that the Jags would have been a horrible team to back this year. But actually, if you'd have backed the Jags in every one of their games, you would be making a slight profit. You would be turning a slight profit. However, all of that profit would have come when the Jags were on the road. The Jags are 4-0 against the number in their 4 road games. They are not on the road this week. Again, they are at home hosting the Detroit Lions. The Jags' 3 home games this season, they have lost them all by a combined 75 points. This team has been non-competitive in front of their home crowd. And quite frankly, I'm not sure if they'll get blown out this week, but I have zero faith in the Jags in this spot. I know Detroit has been a tremendous disappointment this year. I mean, as late as last week in the 4th quarter of that game when it appeared as though they were going to lose to the Seattle Seahawks, if they would have lost that game, you would have been talking about Detroit as one of the most disappointing teams in the entire league. They won 10 games last year, big expectations coming in this season, and they've really been flat. I mean, the numbers look okay. I mean, they're 2nd in the league in total yards and total offense, but only, 2nd in the league in total yards, only 16th in points scored, so they had trouble actually getting in the end zone. Same story on defense. Top 10 in total defense, yardage allowed, but 27th and 23rd in points allowed. Jaguars 27th in points allowed. So Detroit has been the type of team this year, if you've seen them play, you know it. They sort of shoot themselves in the foot. Sputtering, I think, is a good way to describe this team. You keep on waiting for them to pick it up and look like the team that they were in flashes last year, because they weren't consistently good last year. They were really good at times, not so good at others. So this Detroit team still figuring it out, trying to get it together. I do think if you're going to get it together against any team in the league, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a pretty good place to start. This Jacksonville team is getting worse. I believe they're getting. I know that they played better against Green Bay last week. I mean, when you're talking about a loss, and not even it's not like that game came right down to it. Jacksonville never looked like they were going to win the game, but they covered. When you're talking about a loss as a victory, which is what the Jags are doing right now and their fan base is doing, that pretty much says it all about where it is. And to me, you know, I live in the greater Jacksonville area. The studio right here is in Ponte Vedra, Florida, which is about 30 miles from Everbank Field. And I was listening to the Sports Talk Radio earlier today and hearing this guy saying, oh, Blaine Gabbert, well, he's making all these strides. He was talking about, you've probably heard the rumors over the last couple of days about Tim Tebow being traded to the Jaguars before the trade deadline. Of course, that did not happen. But this guy was talking about that, why that wouldn't have been a good thing. Said, oh, it hindered Gabbert's development. It would hinder his development. Gabbert's really shown growth in the last 5 quarters and blah. The last 5 quarters. This guy's had a year and a half of tape. I mean, this guy is one of the worst starting quarterbacks, if not the worst starting quarterback in the entire league. And when you're talking about a performance like his last week against Green Bay, which I saw the game, it was a lot of empty yards. I mean, again, we're not talking about making game-winning plays. To me, those in the Jacksonville fan base who are clinging to any part of this organization right now and thinking that this is the right way to go forward, whether that's the general manager, Gene Smith, who picked all the players, or Blaine Gabbert, or just about anybody else. I mean, I know Mike Mularkey hadn't been there a year yet, so it's a little harsh to throw any of this blame on Mularkey. anybody who is clinging to any of what is going on right now in Jacksonville and saying this is good and they are building something, to me, they are hurting the franchise in the long term, because as soon as Jacksonville, the sooner they can wash all of this, what's going on now, out and start anew, the better. And the direction it's heading this season, that will be after this year. If they can't get it turned around, and I don't believe they're going to be able to, Shad Khan will fire Gene Smith, the general manager, at the conclusion of this season. And then who knows? Mike Mularkey, all the players, who knows who's safe after then. But for the time being, this is still the same dysfunctional Jaguars organization that's been blown out in all 3 of their home games this year. And I have no faith in them at home this week. I do lean towards Detroit minus 3.5 in this game. But you know what? To me, the safer bet here is Detroit on the money line. Detroit can currently be had at 149 on the money line on BETDAQ. And I don't know, the 3.5, something about that bothers me. The Lions have been very undependable. A couple of their wins have been of the last-second variety, including last week. So I'd just as soon not lay the 3.5 points than go ahead and back Detroit money line here. But I do expect the Lions to pick up a road win on Sunday.